All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining another Balerion Space Ventures podcast. It's April 10th, and today we're joined with co-founder and CEO of Bulwark Dynamics, Nhat Lieu. Really happy you could be here. This company, we've been talking for a little bit. It's so cool what you guys are doing, the autonomous shore-to-shore resupply vessels. Um, Something that hasn't really been done before. Maybe to kick things off, you could start with the spark for this idea and what led you to starting this company.
Thank you for having me today, Aidan. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm co-founder and CEO of Bulwark, Nhat Lieu. We're building autonomous maritime vessels and the solution itself. The reason we started this is because we saw the huge gaps in today's Indo-Pacific logistics. You know, uh, the existing logistic connectors built around World War II, Vietnam War, Cold War, and they are very big targets for the few thousand to 10,000 dollars drones, and the numbers are decreasing significantly. So we saw the huge gaps in the logistics. While a lot of companies try to focus on ISR, so that's why we started Borg May 2025, 11 months ago.
Yeah, and in that time, you've been able to, you've been on a sprint and you've talked with governments and you've built prototypes and tested them. Tell us a little bit about your products and what you have so far, and just, I guess, the journey a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So May 2025, we started reading a lot of documents, met a lot of government people, the military officers in the United States, as well as allied forces. And yeah, we saw we don't have a capability to fill the last mile logistics. So that's the feedback we got. We consistently talked to Marine Corps, Army, and other key stakeholders, and decided to build. Oh, we need a landing craft to which can land on almost any shorelines. So, we have a LCU, LCAC, another type of like landing craft, but more we talk to the uh, military personnel, we realize, oh, we got to build this out of scratch. So we built Carabao series, and we recently built Carabao 15 in 43 days. Carabao 15. So in short, Carabao 15 can sell as twice fast as conventional, let's say Burgess style, or let's landing crafts. And our vessel has very shallow draft in the water, like 6 inch. And yeah, our vessel doesn't need ports, piers, or cranes to land on the beach and deploy thousands of pounds of cargoes, and which is no startup has achieved yet before.
Yeah. And to get an idea, when I think of these landing crafts, I think of, the boats that were used on D-Day that charge up to the shoreline, the front opens up, and people and Jeeps, whatever they had in them, were able to get out onto shore. So how come we haven't really heard anything about, vessels that were able to do this since, almost 80 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the technology, those boats have kind of been around, but again, there's no real last mile logistics in maritime anymore. So what happened?
Good question. Yeah, I would say there are two reasons. The first is it's a very simple reason, but people usually try to build new stuff based on what existing in the market. So one side is it's just an innovation of the, let's say, ideas, concepts. But the more bigger reason is, for the long history, after the World War II, the United States doesn't need like that type of landing craft because, you know, that time there weren't drones or let's say a treatable drone to attack the expensive stuff. It started, explicitly around Ukraine time. So since that time, there's a surge in demands for treatable platforms, and they realize, oh, $200 million landing ship medium is not going to work anymore because it's a very good target for them. So I would say one side is like the innovation, and the other side is, there were people kind of overlook the importance of logistics.
Yeah. And why is logistics getting them to the shoreline on a beach so important right now?
Good question. So yeah, so let's say if the war starts, we are completely doing have to the away game, right? We're in the United States, but we gotta send personals system aircrafts to the Indo-Pacific, few thousand miles away from United States. And that area is basically monitored, and that's their backyards, right? So they have a lot of like naval ships and a lot of like systems there. So we need to assume that we have to place a lot of our system under the enemy's weapon engagement zone. So if they detect you, they'll deploy a few $1,000 missiles or drones to destroy your platforms. So this is the concept published from the Marine Corps and Navy, but expeditionary advanced base operation is the new concept of war. And so what we're gonna do is we need to distribute, let's say, thousands of personnel into 20 over distributed islands. And we basically, attack them and hop onto another island and attack them again and hop to another islands to avoid to being attacked. It's like a guerrilla operations on the water. So that's why we need to have constant amount of supplies, like 850 ton every week, based on one of the studies. And we don't want to tell them where we are when we, let's say, bring the stuff. So that's why we need to have the platform that is stealth and stealth, and also doesn't rely on the ports or piers, because those would be monitored 24/7, and we can and make it as cheap as possible to build it at scale.
Yeah. And just this week, you announced the 35-foot autonomous landing craft that you
Yeah.
have. Tell us a little bit about that.
Of course. So we built Carabao 15 in 43 days. That's a crazy timeline. But because my co-founder, had a plan to go to the Hawaii, and we wanted to make it happen by that time. So originally it was a 30 days plan. So we're a bit delayed, to be honest. But so we built that, and uh, lots interactions with the offices and operators, and got a lot of feedbacks, and we realized, oh, that was the demonstrator, so we're looking for the right solution and improving. And yeah, we figure out curable 35, the vessel can, which has a capability to carry 20-foot ISO containers or 20-foot uh, equivalent unit, as well as, yeah, I think that's the predominantly the reason. So basically Kerbal 15, our demonstrator has all the capability, but it doesn't have the payload capacity for what the end user needs.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of, you know, what we would be using this for, like what the cargo would be. You can get a 20-foot shipping container onto one of these. You can get, vehicles. Could you get people onto them to transport them to shorelines?
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna transport munitions, ammos, waters, fuels, munitions, or missiles. So that's the predominant usage, but Army is currently exploring the ideas of having, using autonomous platforms, air, underwater, surface as the missile launchers. So that's another idea, to put, let's say, 20-foot ISO containers designed and built for putting thousands of drones inside, or let's say Nemesis missiles or another type of missiles. And yeah, personals, that's definitely another option.
No. Now, the United States, we have kind of this idea that we have pretty dominant air superiority with our
Mhm.
technology and, you know, uh, our supply and fighter jets, things like that. But with maritime, it might be a little different. We do have, some good assets, warfighting ships and aircraft carriers, but where do we really stack up against in comparison to adversaries with our maritime superiority?
uh, what are we weak at?
Yeah, like what is the United States Navy, the amount of ships we have, how does that compare to, say, China, the amount of ships they have?
Oh
Do
yeah,
we have dominance in the sea?
Yeah, very good question. So, like I said in the beginning, we have away game, right? We need to sail thousands of miles when we get it there, and they are ready for it, right? But aside from that, let's say United States currently has like, the kid only see, China has 230 times more shipping capacity compared to the United States. Their biggest shipyards can build, more than more vessels than in the United States shipyards in total can build per year. That's crazy. And we were saying we built a tradable platforms, but that's what they have been good at in lots of industry, right? So they can build vessel way cheaper, and they have a lot of technologies right now. I think they are now, like we can say, they're superpower, and we underestimate it too much sometimes. So yeah, they can build more vessels more cheaply, and they can build it right next to their countries and deploy it. So uh, so currently, 1 to 230 ratio gaps. We don't have a solution to fill the gaps right now, like the very realistic solutions. I don't, to be honest, with due respect, HII and Saronic, Havoc AI, CSATs, plus another traditional shipyards cannot sustain the number of these gaps.
Yeah. And to get back on track with that manufacturing, that shipbuilding capacity, what has to be done? Because it's a known fact that we just have a major bottleneck when it comes to manufacturing, but large shipcraft capabilities, manufacturing entire, vessels, that's quite hard. What would really need to happen for us to get back on track and have superiority in that space again?
That's a good question, Aidan. I've been thinking about that as well. And one of the solution I found, like the ideas we can explore a little bit more, is looking back to history. Let's say in 1949, United States has to do the pretty similar thing with the Japan, right? Um, and so, and after that, they did the pretty same thing with the Korea, Korean War and Vietnamese Vietnam War. And what they did is, so basically they utilized the Allies shipping, capacity, production capacity of building the cars, building ammos, and a lot of stuff. So that time they used Japan as a fort hub of logistics hub to build lots of things and refuel there, fix the ships there. They didn't ask Japan to build the ships at that time, but they utilized the Allies a lot to, because there's a huge gaps. So currently Palantir and Anduril is partnering with the one of the biggest Korean shipyards to build a next generation of the autonomous ship, like I think naval ships or something. And so we're going toward, we're going. I think we're currently exploring those opportunities, and I think I really support that.
You know, I want to shift focus a little bit. This is a huge problem that you're going after, and you've made a lot of progress and are moving at a very fast pace.
Thank you.
You're a young founder. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you just ended up here.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, I was born and raised in Japan. I was born in Nagasaki. My parents are, somebody maybe can tell, but I'm a Vietnamese. My parents are Vietnamese immigrant from the war to Japan. So, my parents aren't entrepreneurs or founders or very rich families, but they were immigrants, no educations. They couldn't take education because of the war. So yeah, so that really helped. So they raised me as a like a normal kid. You just go to the public school, like a zoos, and yeah, crazy environment. I could see like both world, right? And that really made me have a angers for the um, inequalities around the world. We're the same human, and but there's a huge gaps inequalities, and I had the very big anger inside my heart since I was young, and yeah, life-changing moment was that so my parents even couldn't buy a textbook for me. I got a lot of, billings from the school, and I decided that like to change this life, I gotta go to the good high school, go to good college, and get into the very good company like McKinsey. So I decided to study very hard when I was 14 and decided to go to uh, the very good like school. And so that time in the summer vacation, I made $20,000 to pay the tuition that time. So that was my first time, doing the business, and kind of, that experience changed whole the perspective of the world for me. And so I feel like, oh, everything is just a fiction. And I got into the very good high school, but kind of get bored of it. And since my parent couldn't pay for my college tuition for the very good uh, college outside of my hometown, so I decided to drop out of high school at 16. That time trying to get into Harvard and Stanford. But I ended up studying crowdfunding platform using blockchain at the age of 17, and it felt like, oh, this is what I want to do. I can make direct impact to the world. And I shut down a few months later because of a lot of regulation, and that was my first, funding experience. And half a year later, I started another company, Vitabi, which develops, let's say, booking.coms for travelers who got sick in unfamiliar countries, and we provide all the hospitals, clinics, and connecting with your insurance. So that went pretty well, and it's funny, but tomorrow we're gonna sell that company. So I'm pretty excited, but I built that company and operated for a year, and kind of felt like, oh, I cannot commit a decade for solving travelers' problem. My life is not for that. So before raising the money, like a seed round, I decided to stop the operation and thought about what I want to do. And I have been huge interest in the defense, and that was like January 2025.
Wow. And the background you have, it doesn't, it's not like you grew up in a shipyard and know Navy
Also on a
vessels super
shipyard,
well.
but yeah.
Okay. And then the pace you're at, you guys are building large physical defense items that
Mhm.
work, and did that, you know, on quite a, no huge giant $600 million round to do that. But you've proven yourself out, and now it's time to start scaling up. So, in your journey so far, what's going to be coming next? Like, what are you looking forward to in the future? How does this really grow? And who are you, who's going to really want these ships right away?
Good question. Yeah. So so far we built a product and communicate with the end users and validated the needs and the demands in our solution validity. Yeah, from now we're gonna scale our production and build the vessel as soon as possible at scale for the numbers of the demands they need, the world needs. So yeah, I would say I just recently I just realized we're trying to be Toyota for autonomous maritime solutions. You know, Toyota right now they're, let's say, number one or number two or number three biggest car manufacturers in the world, and they almost went bankrupt in 1949. And what happened there is United States ordered 5,000 trucks for Toyota and Nissan as well. That's the time they expanded the production capability and also built a lot of technologies, advanced technologies, right? And I believe history is repeating, and if the war happens, United States has to or they're likely to partner with the allies to match up with the number of the enemies. And we're gonna build the ships in the United States and Japan at scale and build it and deliver it to the front lines way faster than other companies do. And build a solution starting from 35 feet, but it's not going to be only 35, but we can build another type of vessels if they need it. And yeah, that's one of our visions. But after the war, you know, it's not the end, right? Autonomous maritime solution, commercial world needs it as well, and probably the market can be bigger than the defense, you know. So we if we do only have like software solutions, we're just gonna be the system provider for them. But since we have a autonomous navigation systems bigger than the market's solutions, because we deploy hundreds of vessels every day and deliver it, and also have a tremendous amount of like shipbuilding capacity, uh, with allies, we're gonna build the next generation of commercial ships. Leverage, powered by autonomy. That's our visions. And for Carabel 35, United States military, Army, Marine Corps, they need it. They need the logistic connectors. But not only the United States, but Japan needs it, Australia needs it, Korea needs it. So yeah, so currently we're not suffering from looking for the customers or looking for the uh, buyers, but it's more like they need tremendous amount of vessels in a very short timeline. DIU tries, asks us to build a vessel in 6 months. The usual timeline is 12 to 24 months, OTA, prototype OTA. So it's more like my question these days is how to build production capability at scale in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. So in a world of, contested ports, long range fires, drones, hypersonics, things like that, it really changes what we know about war, especially, a Pacific war where it's thousands of miles away. I was wondering if you could walk us through like a concrete scenario of what this future is going to look like uh, with Bulwark in it, and how we're going to have to change our ideas about modern warfare.
Good question. So currently the military is very uh, serious to have the maritime domain awareness, space domain awareness, aerospace, ground everywhere, to basically integrate all the system and orchestrate it, with the autonomous system or AI or machine learnings. That's what they want to do. So yeah, for the let's say for the maritime, let's the our adversaries definitely use a lot of Shahido or that type of drones to try to destroy a lot of naval ships of ours, so we cannot put like a few $1 million ships in front, on the front lines. But we need to have something way cheaper and treatable. And I believe Borg, Saronic, CSATs, Havoc AI try to build a solution to, make that layer. So I really love them. And speaking of Bulwark, we're why I really like our company, and I believe our mission is we're not just trying to build the solution to solve the, let's say, last mile logistics problem like other company does. Let's say, how we typically operate for the contested logistics. I would say landing landing operation is, LCU, LCAC, or landing ship medium, arrive on the beach and open the open the ramp and unload the cargoes, vehicles, or lots of stuff. But we basically try to design everything can be done autonomously. Land on the beach autonomously, deploy thousands of pounds of cargo autonomously, meaning no operators have to be there on time. You can think of it like an Amazon. You don't want to, previously you have to be there to get the stuff, right? And if you're not there, you got the papers and you ask them to deliver it again. But now Amazon can put your stuff in the post box, or like or just put it in front of your doors. And that really changed the way you order Amazon stuff. And so we basically try to make the same innovation so that like the operator has more operational flexibility, in terms of that internal logistics, as well as they don't have to be super serious and think about how to build the ports or cranes to rack up thousands of pounds of cargoes. So yeah, I believe we're innovating a lot of like how the war operates, and we're trying to make the solution that makes the operation 10 times better. We're asking that every day.
Hmm. Yeah, and autonomy on water is very different than autonomy on land. I mean, you have currents, you have winds, you have waves
Yeah.
constantly shoving you off course. What's the biggest challenge for controlling the changes that are constantly happening around you that you've had to solve? And what's something that people might not understand why this is so hard?
Oh yeah, good question. Um, yeah, like let's say Tesla's cars, they have a lot of problem. Like they need to solve a lot of problems regarding object object collisions or object detection because they cannot hit the person. But they can just ask Tesla cars to go straight, and the car can go straight. But sometimes in the maritime domain, if you want to go straight, you gotta throttle like this all the way from the light and go all the way to make it go straight. So like because we have a constant interference from the waves, um, like the winds and lots of stuff. So and also object detection at night is very hard, in general, because we don't have lights, and sometimes we don't have any signatures to rely on to say this is where we're heading to. And if we are putting into GPS denied navigation, GPS denied environment, we cannot rely on GPS as well. So we need to, utilize another external sources to make the navigation work.
Yeah. So if these, you're starting to manufacture a lot of these, say in the future, and they're being deployed and they're going to islands and they're delivering things to shoreline. Um, what do you start having to account for in terms of defensibility of, how adversaries might have to change their strategy to prevent these things from coming to shore? Um, what kind of threats do you see in the future, and what are your ideas of how to combat those?
Good question. Yeah, currently, like our adversary takes to like they bring a lot of commercial ships to build the walls. Like let's say the military can attack military ships or vessel, but they don't want to attack civilians, right? So one of the very effective strategy is making the nets or the walls of civilian ships or let's say ferries, so that they literally like block the seaways. So that is one of the very tricky let's say strategy they can take, and pretty hard for us to deal with. And they did it a couple of times. And the also the another ways another tactics they can take is, they block all the way around Taiwan and just, and shut down all the exports and imports to Taiwan, because Taiwan is not a very big country, and they're not like US. They're not self-sustained a lot. So let's say their LNG, what is that? What does that stand for? Liquid natural gas. They they only have like very limited uh, storage in the countries. So if they run out of it, like they are in a crisis in terms of they cannot connect the networks or produce electricity, and they can cut the microfiber uh, channels in the sea on the seabed, so that they can access to the internet. Those are another tactics, if this war starts, and that's very easy for them to do those things.
Yeah. Where do you see, if this war starts, like the strong point of the United States having to set up like a temporary base being in the Pacific where your vessels would be operating quite a bit? like would it be Hawaii? Would it be somewhere in like the maybe like the French Polynesian Islands? I'm trying to imagine like
Yeah.
like the
Uh,
right like maybe the
yeah,
Philippines.
yeah. Hawaii has the Indo-Pacific Command, and definitely one of the plan. So, and also speaking of like, let's say, for deploy hub, we have, we have our American base in Okinawa, Kadena, and oh, I forgot the other one, but Kadena, we have an American base there, Yokosuka, Hiroshima, Iwakuni, and also those can be the, let's say, pretty established bases. We can put another type of, like, let's say, forward base in the front line in Yonaguni or Bataan Island in Philippines and Luzon Islands in Philippines, lots of small distributed islands, and that's a concept of expeditionary advanced space operations. Yeah, so lots of commitments needed, required for the United States and allies around if we want to protect Taiwan.
Hmm. And what are some threats that I think people need to be more aware of with this Pacific War, whether it's hypersonics and you know the large ships not being, being powerful, but maybe not being the best option because we can't, put our eggs all in one basket.
Mm.
Are we going to see a future where we have a lot of these war vessels that are, maybe 100 feet, or maybe they'll have very good defense systems and can protect themselves against airborne strikes and submarine strikes?
Yeah, good questions. Uh, yeah, I I would say in short, um, I don't know, because China, they they don't, unlike Andro or like our defense tech startups, they don't disclose a lot of information about their capacity or capability. So like sometimes they do the demos, for the anniversary, and they put the tankers and lots of big um, systems. I crop my hand and say, keep going, please go into our dock. Right? Don't build like autonomous system, attritable systems, because they can build like, let's say, 10 times more, let's say, system hypothetically, and way cheaper. And so one of the threats, let's say, they can build like mid range, the long range missiles at scale. It's like a swarms, and they can not only destroy neighbor ships or sorts of ships, our ships, but they can probably destroying the bases in the front line if they are really serious about capturing Taiwan, like the bases in Okinawa. They can. I recently read a book. I forgot which one was it, but it's a sci-fi talking about, I think, 2034. You know,
Oh, the Future War book, yeah.
yeah, or probably three body problem, maybe 2034. But they plan a lot, and they, let's say, when something happens in the world, let's say when Iran war starts, they take that as they take it as advantages, and they start, destroying a lot of like uh air force base in Japan or allies, so that they can they need a little more time to capture this air superiority, domain awareness, and they start invading or taking action immediately.
Yeah. What's it look like to set up, a scalable manufacturing system? So, what does it take to really build these ships at scale? Like from just a high level overview of just like,
Mm.
well, you need to have a lot of metal, then you need to have these types of robots. And is it like a factory line, like cars? What does it look like to, rapidly build
Yeah,
vessels?
yeah. I believe so. There's a two layers, right? When you when you design the vessel or cars or robots, we need to make it, you know, mass production friendly. Like Tesla did it very, very well. And Elon said, if it's very hard to manufacture, that's a bad design. So we need to think about how to design it correctly, from the beginning. We cannot build it in the middle, like production. We need to start thinking about it from the beginning. And in addition to that, we need to utilize the, let's say, Tesla's production lines, Toyota's production lines, Chevrolet's production lines to, let's say, build engines or build, let's say, humanoid hands or sorts of things. We need to design the things, systems that is able to manufacture not only in Andros or Adrian's warehouse, but also another civilian warehouse as well to, you know, ramp up the production. Because
Yeah.
those facilities, people are not gonna buy lots of cars in the wartime. They cannot buy it. So those production lines would be empty and they don't have orders. So it would be great if we can utilize those production lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
The,
also, I was from software world, right? And when you think about how to make, let's say, that how to double the production, we would think, oh, we need to multiply two to the lines, command lines or something like that. But one of the things that really intrigued me when I visited like the one of the very big shipyards in the world, I thought, oh, if you want to double the production, why don't you just build additional, uh, let's say, warehouse in your shipyard, right? And it's like a few $100 million investment, and the government would love to give you the money. But the question is, if you know you're not self-sustained, if you want to double the production, you got to double the production of your suppliers. And so let's say engine makers and lots of other parts, and usually they have a back orders and they are not able to double the production like that way. So we also got to think about how to scale. We also got to think about our suppliers, especially mass production. um, and that's another problem we need to take into account and we're currently trying to solve.
yeah. Now, are these vessels, are they being designed maybe for more for stealth or survivability? I'm just thinking about the missions they'll operate and what's going to be important to them for the qualities they need to be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
most effective.
I would say we're still trying to be flexible and trying to get as much information as possible. But that's a very good question, Aidan. We talked to a lot of officers and operators in the DOW, and they have a controversial opinions. I mean, some people say, stealthness is really important because, like the operation I mentioned, we're going to do the guerrilla operations, and we don't want to tell them where we are right from the beginning. But um, some people say it's safe to assume your vessels are always monitored because we have our advanced sensor, we have our satellites, we have our synthetic aperture radars, and lots of technologies. And recently, did you see uh, the United States use a diamond kind of like chips or stuff to find where the Air Force officers are hiding in the Iran and help them escape from the countries.
I
And
did not see this.
yeah, so in short, like we're still exploring it, and seems like there's a lot of opinions in it. But our current solution, we prioritize the actual operation of the ship, like beach landing, cargo deployment, and all of those stuff over stealthness. Well, we have a pretty good stealthness, but we still can make it more stealthy, but it just like adds more cost, or we got to sacrifice a little if you want to keep the same price.
Okay. And, without with this being an autonomous system, there's a lot of like small variables that can happen, whether it's a set of waves coming, or, small rocks that are, inches under the surface that are right by the beach that might look like an easy land. How do you account for all these like small details completely autonomously without humans in the loop?
Um, yeah, great questions. Yeah, that's yeah. I would say currently our autonomy basically can um I don't want to disclose a lot of details, but
Sure. Yeah.
deal with those like let's say constant uh set of waves as well as like small rocks on the waters and uh deep crest and corals, a lot of stuff. And yeah, our CTO was former chief engineer at NASA, and before that he worked for DEFCON. Now where he built a lot of autonomous system for the aircraft as well as maritime solution. He yeah he has three vessels, and he lives there. And he doesn't want to operate all the time, so he built autonomous navigation system from scratch because the commercial, you know, the commercial off the shelves on the market was suck. So he knows a lot of those details, a lot of like autonomy engineer can underlook or just miss. So yeah, we but currently we're trying to build things from the very like big components, like deterministic factors first, and yeah, and I think we put a little low prioritization on those small details right now. But I think our autonomy has a pretty good uh, features for those small details as well.
Okay. And when you're selling this idea to military customers, you know, what questions or what are some ways you pitch this to them where they get it, they understand it? Maybe they might not think it's a big problem at first, but how do you put it into context where you show that, this last mile delivery needs to be these small autonomous ships that can go onto shorelines?
Yeah, I would say lots of offices are now realizing the value of logistics and contested logistics. But yeah, we basically tell the current gaps and capability gaps existing and tell how our operation can actually solve all of these gaps and providing them a lot of scenarios how Carable can be used or our autonomy can be used effectively. And yeah, we set up the demos or we sign the R&D contract with them, and yeah, and get the feedbacks for our, let's say, testing results. That's we it's like we you cannot sell the stuff overnight, right? They have an obligation to provide the solution that works completely, because like failure means lots of casualties, right? So we need to be our side also has to be a little careful of the circumstances of our implementation of our stuff and build the credibility for our company and product, step by step. And software, I think it goes really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the early day was really hard. We we didn't know about the lingo. They love acronyms, right? They say Indo-Pacific. What is like Indo-PACOM? I was like, what is Indo-PACOM? But it's in the Microsoft Teams, and lots of offices are there. So I got to nod my head at that time. Like lots of I needed to learn a lot of stuff, and since we can speak the lingos, understand what they think about the problems in there trying to solve, you know, things gets way easier.
hmm And what's one prediction you have about future conflicts that you hope is wrong, that really worries you?
Mm. Um, yeah, I would say Saronic is currently building 2,000 of Corsairs for ISR and attacking. And let's say we bring it and Caravel, we we build it. We build a certain amount of numbers of the Caravel. And our adversary has, 10 times, 100 times more number of those vessels or, destroyers. That is the catastrophe. And it can happen. It's not like it's an impossible features. So that's why I really surprised that DOW is trying to make things faster and faster and faster too, because they have a real sense of like urgencies and threats. So I'm pretty surprised they move really fast, and yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Now, I'm thinking about, building these ships and you're still early. Does the design change like quite often? And when do you decide that this is a good enough ship, send it out versus this needs to be iterated again?
Yeah, we iterate a lot. We design it. We thought we're gonna build it by May next year, and got a lot of we don't have lots of design changes right now because currently the way PAE RAS, program acquisition executive robotic autonomous system or maritime new acquisition office, I would say they don't provide us, let's say, this material, use this material or use this designs, but they expect us to solve those problem and pitch to them with the actual demonstration videos or datas or with actual vessels or stuff. So we don't have lots of design changes right now, but it's more like their timeline changes, their priority changes a lot based on who we talk to. And when the news information coming into our team, we got to take it into account about those things. And let's say we initially thought of like building Kerbal 35 by March next year, but figure out, oh, it's too late. It's 2027 already. So we discussed and thought a lot to how to make it shorter and shorter. And we say, oh, we can build it by before the 2026 ends. But still, our BD team says, can you make it way faster? 2-3 months more faster. I was like, you know, this is our best right now, but we never know. Maybe we can short. So we constantly try to make it fast, but while having the right capabilities to show to the customer and let it use to let provide it to the operators and users safely.
Got it. Now I'm thinking about the operations these ships will do of taking things to shore. And, maybe that's a few days out of the year. What do they do in the rest of the year? Are they just, kind of hanging around waiting for a mission? Are there other uses, dual use cases? I'm curious, like, are these going to be used weekly, daily, or whenever needed, every few
I would say
months?
weekly.
Weekly.
We
Okay.
constantly resupply lots of stuff for the end users, so it's gonna be weekly or shorter. Um, uh, yeah, timeline, but we like this because our ships are for logistics, right? Historically, ships are designed and used for logistics. It's not for ISR attacking. So our vessel can use for remote island delivery to the islands, where there are no, boat companies or sea routes. And also we can use our vessel for disaster relief and also doing the maintenance of like offshore power plant, let's say 20 or 30 miles far away from the shorelines. And currently they use a lot of like very expensive uh, human support vessels, so we can replace those or supplement those usage. And the good thing about it is, we don't want to start building everything if when war starts. We want to have like certain amount of number of vessels even in the peacetime, and those vessel in the peacetime can serve as those usages. And if war starts, we can use those vessels as a connectors for the contested logistics.
Hmm. Now, we've seen Bulwark, we've seen Saronic, we've seen, Androl, and all these autonomous systems. How autonomous is the Navy going to be 10 years in the future?
Great question. I wouldn't think autonomy is the real challenging parts right now. It's more like how we can have interoperability with another platforms, or let's say UAVs, UUVs, or existing naval ships or aircrafts, share the information and have the better decision making pipelines among all of these platforms.
No. Well, for anyone listening to this conversation that we've had, and you wanted them to have, one key takeaway from our discussion, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say like a lot of people see the market is getting to be saturated in UAV, USV, ISR market as well, and lots of market. People feel really hard to get into defense market, and I used to have it, but if you look at the, let's say, venture capital raising, things may be true, but if you really look at the capability gaps we have, and we have a lots of theme to tackle to have build the better solutions. So I would say from that perspective, the world needs you, and world still needs us. Even there's a lot of Saronic, Andro, and a lot of those startups. There are lots of holes we need to fill in addition to them. So yeah, a lot of my I feel I'm pretty surprised. A lot of my friends, who's in college or early 20s or mid 20s, have really big interest in defense, and but they are kind of stutters and don't know how to get into it. But I would say the market, we're pretty open than we I used to think. So maybe people listening to this podcast is people in the industry already, or pretty interested how we start the company. And I would say there are a lot of like things we can there are a lot of innovation we need to make and we can make. And yeah, we need you.
Got it. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. Nat, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for
Likewise.
taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
All right. Take care and see you next time.
Yeah, see you.